I'm glad to be joined today by our State Senator Scott Wiener, your District 8 Supervisor Raphael Mandelman, District 11 Supervisor Asha Safai, your new City Administrator Carmen Chu, the head of MTA Jeff Tumlin, and so many other folks who are important to making great things happen. Now, many of you know that from the very beginning, all I talk about most of the time, I want to cut bureaucracy. I want to get rid of the red tape. I want to make it easier for us to do things in San Francisco. I want us to have fun. I want it to be vibrant. I want it to be great. And you know, this pandemic hit and it changed our lives like nothing we could have ever anticipated. And as a result, we had to make a number of changes. We had to distance ourselves from one another. Well, our natural instinct is to, when we see a friend or family member that we actually like, we want to give them a hug. To go out to our favorite restaurants, the city had to shut down. And as we began to see our numbers change and decline, we made some adjustments because indoors was somewhat problematic, as you all know, and doing things outdoors was a lot safer for each and every one of us. And so we made some adjustments. And one of those really exciting and great adjustments we made was our Shared Spaces program. Now, Scott Wiener, when he served on the Board of Supervisors, was very aggressive about trying to develop a parklets program. And so some people have been able to take advantage of that parklets program. But if you go through the parklets program process, it makes you not want to do a parklet. That's why you didn't see that many in San Francisco. And now we stole Scott Wiener's idea of parklets and we turned it into shared spaces during this pandemic. And as a result, all of a sudden, everyone's looking around San Francisco. We have parklets everywhere. We have people out and about and dining and enjoying each other and of course staying safe because we are still in this pandemic. So I'm really excited about this program. But the reason why we were able to act so quickly and get this program going was because we declared a state of emergency. And so a lot of the things that we would have had to done in the past, we basically got rid of all that and pivoted and did what we had to do. You know what this emergency showed me, as hard as it was? That this city knows how to act quickly. When we remove the barriers for small businesses, we can make magic happen. We can do incredible things. And I am determined to make sure that these shared spaces that we all know and love are here to stay in San Francisco even after this pandemic is over. And that's why we're here today. So what I'd prefer to do is to just say, oh, just leave them be. Let's not do a process. Let's not do all this stuff that makes things more complicated than it has to be. But unfortunately, this is the city and county of San Francisco, so there has to be a process, right? There has to be some sort of system in place so that not only can we have these shared spaces continue, we want to make sure that other businesses who have an interest in having a shared space has the opportunity to do this even after the pandemic. In fact, what's so great about what we've been able to do here, we've made it easy, but we want to continue to make sure it's easy. Thank you to the voters. Last November, we passed Proposition H. And I think I told you all the story about how a nail shop, which was struggling, had to pivot and get a change in use. And traditionally, that process would take at least 9 months. And because of Prop H, it took 1 day to get a permit to make a change so that that person could change their business and continue to generate revenue to support themselves and their family. The same is what we are proposed to do as a result of this Shared Spaces program. We have got to make it easier for businesses to do business in San Francisco. It shouldn't take 2 years to open an ice cream bar. It shouldn't take 2 years to open a drugstore or the kinds of amenities that so many of us rely on in our neighborhoods. We have empty storefronts all over the city. And the only way we're going to get our city up and running again is we have to be prepared to make the hard decisions around providing spaces like our shared spaces program, about making it easier for people to have these shared spaces so that they can conduct business, we can get people back to work and get our economy going again, because San Francisco needs this. We need this now, we'll need this in the future, and I'm super excited that we're able to make this program, which I think has been a huge success and one of the best things to come out of this pandemic, we are able to make this program permanent. So with that, I want to take this opportunity to introduce State Senator Scott Wiener, who is working on a number of pieces of legislation. He's always on top of things, not just because he's on top of us because he's as tall as he is, but he's always on top of making sure that we have the right legislation from the state to help us facilitate all of the challenges that we deal with in San Francisco. So ladies and gentlemen, State Senator Scott Wiener.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And first of all, I want to thank the Mayor for her tremendous leadership throughout this pandemic. San Francisco, under Mayor Breed's leadership, acted early and decisively to go into a shelter in place, and as a result of the mayor's bold and firm actions, many lives were saved in San Francisco. And so, Madam Mayor, thank you for that incredible leadership. And also your leadership in supporting our small businesses, not just through Prop H, which was amazing, but during this pandemic, and knowing that we need to do our role, play our part in supporting our small businesses, because we know that we have to be intentional in terms of what comes out of this pandemic. And if there's a business that you support, we need to support that business to make sure that it is still here when this is over. So the Shared Spaces program has been just an absolute lifeline. You know, the number of restaurants and bars that would not be here, would not be open today, had it not been for this program, is really significant. We've seen far too many of our restaurants and bars and cafes close permanently. The number would have been dramatically higher had it not been for this program. This has been a lifeline, you know, just to hold on for dear life and survive until this pandemic is over. And we know that the light is at the end of the tunnel. We can see it, and it's getting closer and closer, faster and faster as the vaccines roll out. Faster and faster, and that is very exciting. But the other piece of this program that's been so amazing is with very little fighting, we were able, and the city was able, to show people what's possible. Because if you imagine pre-pandemic, if you had said, we want to do all of this, we want to let restaurants and bars put out these parklets to serve, it would have been like chaotic San Francisco politics and lots of fighting, and God knows how long it would take. And people would, you know, when they think of an idea, they would just immediately think of the worst possible things that can happen. But then you just make it happen, and all of a sudden people see, wow, this is amazing, and I want this to remain. And I have personally talked to people who have told me, I never ever would have supported this had it just been proposed pre-COVID as an idea, but now that it's here, I want it to stay. So it is amazing what people have learned is possible. And we need to make sure that as we come out of the pandemic, we don't just revert to the old ways. It's going to be very, very tempting just to slide back to the old ways of doing things. And we need to make sure that the good things that we have learned and piloted during the pandemic that we keep, and we don't fall back into bad old habits. We want to not fall back into the bad old habits of saying that streets are only for cars and nothing else. We know that streets can be for a lot of things. We want to make sure that we don't fall into the bad old habit that's saying that dining and drinking can only be inside. We need to make sure we keep this going. And so as a result, I'm authoring legislation, Senate Bill 314, that would make it much easier for cities to make these programs permanent. So that these businesses don't have to start from scratch applying for liquor licenses and liquor license expansions. We know how they've operated, and they should be able to stay. And we also have some other parts of that bill just to make it easier for bars in particular to share space and to be able to have those kinds of efficiencies that way, to make life easier for live music venues and other just ways of supporting our hospitality sector. So I'm really excited about what is going to happen as we come out of this pandemic. We're going to get there together. And again, thank you, Madam Mayor, for your leadership. So this is my neighborhood. I live a block and a half from here and have for about 23 years. And it was such an honor to represent this community on the Board of Supervisors. But I'm very proud that my successor on the Board of Supervisors, my supervisor, is doing an amazing job. So Raphael Mandelman.
This is such a beautiful day and such an exciting announcement. And of course, I want to start by thanking the previous speaker, Senator Wiener, for his foresight in envisioning the Parklet program and working with Andres Power when he was back in your office on that locally, and for continuing to be a champion of urbanism, for recognizing the changes in state law that need to happen to make the parklets continue and the shared spaces continue. I was happy to sponsor a resolution in support of SB 314, which is Senator Wiener's legislation that will allow the continued sale of alcohol outside in these spaces once the emergency is over. So the parklets, as we know them, can only survive with a little bit of an assist from the state, and we're very grateful for that. Of course, I want to thank the mayor as well. As I was walking down here, one of my constituents stopped me and said to thank the mayor for saving his life, which got me a little verklempt. I'm prone to getting verklempt, but this is a man who has lung breathing issues. He said he was a little annoyed when the city shut down initially, but then he realized he needed that to be alive, and he's here. And with us, and so many other people are in this city because of the foresight and strong action that we took at the start. A year makes a big difference. If you recall, a year ago, March, we had no idea what the future held, and I was terrified. I think the mayor was terrified. The senator, all of us were very worried about what would San Francisco look like in a year? How many people would we have lost? And we've lost too many people, but we have saved so many because of the strong action by the mayor and the Department of Public Health and other departments of public health around the Bay Area, and I'm forever going to be grateful for that. As I'm grateful for the mayor's consistent support for small business, for things like Proposition H, for your dedication and determination to ripping out and getting rid of regulations that are unnecessary and impede economic development and thriving neighborhoods. In particular, for your dedication to this neighborhood, the Castro. The mayor actually does spend a fair amount of time here. She's got her eyes on what's going on, and when we make progress in this neighborhood, it's often the result of the mayor having actually made phone calls to make things happen. So thank you, Madam Mayor, for that. My first kind of notion of the Shared Spaces program was about a year ago. I got a call from Lori Thomas with the Golden Gate Restaurant Association, and Shavi is here, also from GGRA. And Lori, as I said, we were worried about what the future would look like in terms of lives lost, but we were also very worried about what the future would look like in terms of businesses lost and the dreams of entrepreneurs being crushed and what we knew would be an economically challenging time. And Lori had seen, others had seen in the paper that other cities around the world confronted with the same problem were beginning to look at how they could more effectively use public spaces, sidewalks, streets. Could we allow our restaurants and bars and other small businesses to get out into that right-of-way and actually have space outdoors where they could continue to meet the needs of the community and meet the economic needs of employers and employees? It was not easy. There are a lot of unsung heroes in all of this. One of the most she's not the most unsung, but she's one of the most heroic is our new city administrator, Carmen Chu. Carmen Chu at the time was the assessor recorder, which is not always the most exciting job. But apparently in a pandemic, it is licensed to come in, eviscerate all of the lanes, and take responsibility for a lot of stuff, which she did. And one of the things that she really helped move forward was this shared spaces program. We were on weekly calls, as we heard from different department heads, including Jeff Tumlin, who's somewhere here. There he is. MTA is pretty important in all of this, and others about what would need to happen to roll this program out, to meet the concerns of neighbors and of businesses who might be negatively impacted by it, and to make this work. And so thank you, Carmen Chu. As well as to other folks like Joaquin Torres, our new assessor recorder, formerly a director of OEWG, Public Works and Entertainment Commission staff, and then another unsung hero who you may not have heard his name, but he's been really important, is Robin Abad. Robin Abad Acubio at the Planning Department, and Robin is here somewhere. And Robin had to be extraordinary, show creativity and a tireless work ethic over the last year to make this work. So, and then working with Andres Power in the mayor's office, who remember had been there back with Scott in the initial versions of the Parklet program, coming up with a permanent version of this. I'm a big fan, and I want to thank all the people who worked so hard to get us to this day and to actually have a framework to make this program permanent. I believe their work is good, and I'm proud to co-sponsor this legislation. I think we're starting a conversation now at the Board of Supervisors, and I'm hoping that it will be one that reveals that actually we're not alone. San Franciscans love this program and want to see it continue, but we also need to hear from folks who have concerns and make sure that we're adequately addressing those concerns. Here in the Castro, Manny Yakudiel, who's not here today, but is the new MTA commissioner from the mayor, had done an amazing job to set up our shared spaces on 18th and on Valencia. Masood Samari from Castro Merchants, Shannon Amaton and other Castro Merchants leadership, and then Andrea Aiello and Deborah Neiman of the Castro and Noe Valley CBDs have been really critical in getting this done. So this is, as I said, an exciting day. I want to thank everyone who got us here, and I am now going to introduce my fellow colleague, another big fan of shared spaces, Asha Safai.
All right. Well, this is a special day for San Francisco. I want to thank our mayor. I want to thank Senator Scott Wiener, my colleague Supervisor Mandelman. But let me underscore something. 1,700 permits have been issued for shared spaces in this short amount of time. I mean, just look at this street alone. Look how many additional shared spaces have been added just to this one street. This program, this initiative is transforming San Francisco. You can't often say that an initiative or a new program is transforming the landscape of your city. But we also have to take a step back and say why. Why is it that a crisis like this pandemic, has forced us to take a look at how we utilize public space? Why is it that so many layers of bureaucracy exist in this city to stop businesses from wanting to do some of their core functions? In a lot of other cities around the world, this is a natural part of the city's landscape. But in San Francisco, what's part of our landscape are barriers for expansion and supporting small businesses. So I really want to thank the mayor for taking the initiative very early on, listening to the Small Business Commission, listening to the small business networks that are out there like the Council of District Merchants, listening to the Golden Gate Restaurant Association. These businesses are predominantly family-run, mom-and-pop shops where people have put their entire life savings on the line. And if not for some of the financial support that the mayor led on and that we've led on at the Board of Supervisors to provide grants and true lifelines, many of these businesses would be gone. And these businesses are what make San Francisco special. People come from all over the world to the Castro. They want to experience the Castro. They want to experience the businesses that are here. They want to experience the business all over our city because they're unique. So this is an extension of our ability to ensure that we're taking a negative, that we're taking one of the most unintended consequences, something that never would have been able to happen. And when I say never, this never would have been able to happen if not for the fact that we had this crisis. So we're turning it on its head, just like we did with Prop H. I was very proud when I first became supervisor. We did a pilot. We removed all the barriers for business changes and neighborhood notifications. And the mayor was smart enough, and her team, to take that citywide and do Proposition H. That is transforming San Francisco. So if we can make this a permanent part of the landscape, and we will, this is something that will make San Francisco even more special. There's going to be multiple options. There's people that are going to say, are they accessible to the disability community? Is this something that's going to be open to the public? But I really want to credit the mayor and her team, Andres, Robin Abad, all the folks from the small business community that have given their input. We're going to have multiple options. We're going to have parklets. We're going to have commercial space. We're going to have a hybrid of in-between. We're going to make the fees accessible to people. And then the ongoing costs will be something that will be manageable. And this will be something that will help this city continue to thrive and grow. So I'm happy to be a part of that. I'm happy to help lead the initiative with my colleague, Raphael, and others at the board. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for introducing this. Thank you, Senator Wiener, for giving us the additional compliments at the state level. And thank you for all those small businesses and small business networks for pushing this forward. And of course, for our city administrator, Carmen Chu, for helping guide the process. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And at this time, I want to introduce the owners of the Cove on Castro, Solange and Maurice Darish. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Good afternoon. Mayor Breeds, Senator Wiener, Supervisor Mendelman, Supervisor Safai, and Director Abad. Thank you for choosing the Castro for your press conference. We want to thank you for your leadership in acting swiftly and decisively in creating the Shared Spaces program. This program allowed restaurants and bars to team up, which gave us a fighting chance to survive this pandemic. Because of your vision and dedication in seeing this through, here we are exactly 1 year later. This June, it'll be 50 years that the Cove on Castro has been family-owned. Maurice and I have been part of this wonderful community for over 30 years. We have some employees that have been with us for that long. Our community has endured an epidemic that took too many, too soon, and too young. Now we have been through a pandemic together. This community is resilient and strong. They have been with us, supporting us through good times and bad, and we want to thank them for being part of our family. Thank you, and thank you all.
I just wanted to add a couple of words and thank the team at 440 Castro for teaming with us and helping us survive this very difficult moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I just want to acknowledge the president of the Small Business Commission, Sharky Laguana, who's joining us here today. Thank you, Sharky, for being here. And thank you to the president of the Castro Merchants Association, Masood. We really appreciate your work and your advocacy in this community. So many great people. It does take a village to do anything so incredible and significant, and we are so grateful and excited about the future of San Francisco. We are still in a pandemic. We still need to do our part, wear our masks, socially distance, and be as responsible as we possibly can. As of today, over 200,000 San Franciscans have received at least their first dose of the vaccine. 68% of those who are over the age of 65 have been vaccinated in this city, and over 26% of those over the age of 16 have been vaccinated. I'm really proud of the work that we are doing in this city. I see our hospitalization rate going down. I see our new case rate going down. I see the sun shining in our beautiful city. I see people smiling. I know this has been a hard year for us. And the thing is, we've been through challenging situations in the past. Many of us were here during the '89 earthquake. I was in high school at Galileo High School, where devastation of that particular community in the Marina was significant. We were here in the '80s during the AIDS crisis, where San Francisco was almost left on its own to fend for itself. We've been through challenges, but the reason why San Francisco has been a leader during this pandemic has everything to do with the challenges that we faced in the past and how resilient our city is as we move towards the future. If it can't be done in San Francisco, it probably can't be done anywhere. We are the second densest city in the country, and we have the lowest infection rate and the lowest death rate of any major city because when it matters, we know how to roll up our sleeves and we know how to get it done. So as great as things are right now, we know we're almost at that orange tier. We expect to be there based on what we see with our numbers. We expect to be there on March 24th. We want to get to yellow. We want to get to that point. But we don't want to get complacent. We don't want to get too comfortable because we want to get out of this safely. We want to get out of this intact. We want to get people back to work. We want to keep the small businesses that are still open. We want to make sure they thrive. We want to protect and support and uplift our young ones. We want to get our loved ones. We want to get our kids back in school. So much work to do, but so much hope for a better future. And this program, let me tell you something, it brings life and vibrancy and excitement to San Francisco, and that gives me hope for a better future. Thank you all so much for being here, and thank you all for staying so strong through this past year, through this pandemic.